Good evening. I was going to say good afternoon. Good evening and welcome. My name is Ruth and it says that right there. Where does it say there? I can't do this. Welcome. This is my regular Thursday Facebook Live. Ask me anything about Hong Kong schools, Hong Kong private schools, international schools, or UK independent schools. So you know how this works. We are live on Facebook, in groups, on YouTube and LinkedIn. So if you have anything at all to ask me, I will answer you live. I do promise you that. Yes, I do. And if you want to ask me, if you're watching this on catch up and you want to type something in the comments, I'll probably bump it on to next week. So I do this every week. I've been doing this every week for over a year now. I do miss the occasional one. But there you have it. So is there anything that you would like to know? I will be as honest as I can be about anything to do with admissions into Hong Kong schools or UK schools. It is admission season coming up. I think I said this last week, that I feel like there's a change in the air, that people are getting nervous. I have my community online with me tonight, and the questions have been flying in all day, and I've just been doing my very best to keep on top of it. So news, what news do we have in the world of Hong Kong schools? I'll start with Hong Kong. Well, first of all, congratulations to all those parents who you sent your children back. Haven't done that yet, but doesn't that feel good? So I hope that all of the children who are starting in a new school or going back to their old school enjoy school. I mean, it's really important that they love to go to school, or at least they don't hate it. But we would really rather that they genuinely do love it. And so yeah, we do a lot of switching, and you kind of know when the time is right, when your child is no longer happy in school. So I hope that your children are happy in school. If you are needing to look for a new school in 2025, that's what we are all about. We have been planning for 2025 admissions for quite a few months now. We really like to get everyone into our program during the summer, June, July, August. By now, we're pretty much at capacity, but you never know, because some of the families who might have thought Hong Kong aren't moving to Hong Kong or what have you. So news, thank you for the comments. Thank you for the questions. I'll get to those. Brilliant. So news, what did we have coming up? We finalized the IB scores. They were out in July. The A-level scores were done on the 15th of this month, and then the GCSE grades were today. For most of the examination boards, I did see a few schools that are, I think Cambridge is on a separate schedule. But so congratulations to those parents. If your children received GCSE grades today, I hope that they were what you were looking for. And if they weren't, it's okay. You know, GCSE grades are the route, the pathway to do what's next, whether that's IB diploma, whether that is BTEC, whether it is A-levels or something else. Yeah, I've been thinking about this quite a bit, and going through the university admissions process as a parent, because we don't do that at top schools. We don't do university, we do K-12. And university is interesting, but having done that as a parent once, and I'll be doing it again next year, it is interesting to then look back and say, right, I've done the whole thing. So yeah, so the news was the results. Oh, the other news, and is it news? Lots and lots of schools are opening and closing all the time, right? So we have to keep our finger on the pulse of mostly kindergartens. We've seen a lot of casualties. We've seen quite a number of kindergartens that have closed in the last several years. If nobody in particular, but the conceptual, if the person, running a standalone kindergarten that doesn't have a primary school attached to it, it's been a very, very difficult market to operate a kindergarten. And unfortunately, we have seen a number of casualties, and I think that we will see a few more as well. The opposite trend is that primary schools need to add on a kindergarten at the bottom. They also need to add on a secondary school at the top, because if they don't have the through train, it's a disadvantage. You know, as a parent, as I work with parents, we know that the through train option is attractive, even though I say, and you know that I will always say that you enroll your 3-year-old in a through train and think that you're done, and you think that you don't need to worry about it again. But most children don't stay in one school from 3 till 18 for 15 years. Most children don't. So that is something to bear in mind. So the news was ESF. So ESF put it on their website. I put it on the Facebook group. Then the media jump on it, and they're opening a new kindergarten. No biggie. It is what it is. I've known about this because I work with Sun Hung Kai for their clients in their properties. So they're building a new huge development, huge, in Saisha. Just go past Sai Kung, keep on going around Saisha Road. Big sports, commercial, no residential, but shopping and leisure facilities. And ESF is opening a kindergarten there. What they're actually doing is relocating, good choice of words, their kindergarten from Tung Chung to Saisha. Not exactly the same catchment, not exactly the same neighborhood. And then those students who will go to the new kindergarten in Saisha from 2026 will have a guaranteed spot into Renaissance College. So this is not this is an iteration on a policy that ESF have had in place for some years. So all ESF kindergartens give students a guaranteed spot into any ESF school. Okay, so we've only got a few kindergartens. We've got the Wu Kai Sha, the Tongchung, which will be closing or relocating. We have Hillside. Is that it? Is there another ESF kindergarten on Kowloon? There's not, is there? Forgive me if I forget. So the concept is ESF kindergartens is K1, K2. ESF primary school is year 1. Year 1 is the equivalent of K3. So a student in an ESF kindergarten will have a guaranteed spot into the ESF school that they apply to. You put down 4 choices. Guaranteed is not always 100% guaranteed. There are some conditions attached to that. They center around learning needs. So it's not 100% guaranteed. And so the new kindergarten in Saisha is just a little bit different on that policy in as much as they're not saying that students at Saisha can enter any ESF primary school. They will only enter Renaissance College. Renaissance College is a private school. They do not have any requirement for foreign passport holders. In fact, it's the reverse. They have a requirement for locals being defined as permanent residents. You can be both. You can be both a permanent resident and a foreign passport holder. But the fact is the other ESF schools have the obligation to enroll. There should be 70% foreign passport holders. And that's been a bit of a challenge. And that's a challenge for all schools. We've talked about this a lot. Some schools are 70, some are 80, 85, 90, 98. Yeah. So that was the news, and then the media picked up on that. The other news, Harrow is opening a new kindergarten as well in the eastern side of Kowloon in Kwun Tong area, I think it is. So we can put that up as well, but you can go and have a look at that. What is the news? That's about it. I mean, lots of head changes next year. I will write up, I usually do a heads on the move roundup of all of the senior leadership changes in schools. And there aren't too many this year, but there are a lot for next year that we already know about. There are quite a number of heads that will be changing. So I'll write that up, maybe share later. Okay. I'll stop waffling. I'm going to get to the questions. If you have any questions related to schools, let me know and I will do my best to answer them. Sharon, thank you for your question. This is an impossible question. I don't know you, Sharon, and I don't know your children. Okay, let me break it down. Let me break it down. Right, first of all, okay. First of all, these three schools are very different. They are different in a number of ways. They are different in their starting age. So, strategically, if I was planning this for you, Canadians first, then CIS is second, and VSA is last. And Canadian is a through train, CIS is a through train, and VSA is not quite a through train. Now, Victoria Shanghai Academy, just in case anyone is wondering about these acronyms, Chinese International School and Canadian International School. I'm going to do some definitions and break down some of the differences because I couldn't possibly answer the question about what are the chances. We have successful placements in all of these schools every single year. More with CIS and Canadian. VSA is not a super popular school among our population, and I can explain why. Because they're last. So Victoria Shanghai Academy starts age 6, like the local system. So it's a P1 starting age. The reason being is that, I mean, historically, they are somewhat loosely affiliated for now with the Victoria kindergartens and the Causeway Bay Victoria Kindergarten, and they have K1, K2, K3. They have pre-nursery too, but they go up to K3. So they're not going to want to lose their students earlier. But VSA is a private school. It is not a bilingual stream in VSA. A stream would imply that there's a choice, and there isn't. VSA is a bilingual school. So there's no option. You can't have a non-bilingual stream. Meaning that there are 2 teachers in the classroom. One is speaking in Mandarin and one is speaking in English. The children are supposed to do both, and their output, their input and their output is both in Chinese and English. So VSA is for all intents and purposes, it's a local school, it's a private school. The Chinese is good. I mean, it's better than a lot of other international schools, but as we can see, these other schools are catching up now. So chances, impossible to say. One thing I'll say about Victoria Shanghai Academy is that there's a little bit of a disconnect between the Victoria kindergartens and the academy. And the disconnect is this. The kindergartens are mostly trilingual. They're mostly serving the local Hong Kong population, where their first language is Cantonese, and they will then transition into the local system where much of the teaching is done in Cantonese. So Cantonese is important. In the trilingual stream at VSA, it is not a third, a third, a third. It is predominantly Cantonese with a little bit of Mandarin, a little bit of English. The disconnect happens when the children go to VSA to interview and their first language is Cantonese, yet they are not, this is not appreciated, this is not tested, and it's not well regarded because the languages of the school at primary are not Cantonese, they're Mandarin and English. So if your child is first language Mandarin or first language English, they would have an advantage. That's all I'm going to say about that. And if they're not first language English and first language or first language Mandarin, it's not surprising, is it? Because they've been in a trilingual kindergarten, and presumably your language at home is probably Cantonese too. So it's kind of obvious to me. Chinese International School, again, is not a bilingual stream. It is a bilingual school in primary. Similar but different. I mean, I know in the interest of time, I'm going to keep this brief. 2 teachers in the class most of the time. One speaks Mandarin Chinese and one speaks English. They take children at 4 years old into reception. It's extremely selective and competitive. It's not a large school. They only have 96 places. It's a great school. We love it. We have a lot of applicants every year. And to be honest, most of them don't get accepted. That is the harsh reality. A lot of the CIS applicants for reception are the ones that are successful would be siblings, alumni, debenture holders, and other priority categories. Canadian School Bilingual Stream is new. They have a pre-nursery. So if you are not too late, I would say get in for the pre-nursery. Again, it's not really a stream. Sorry, it's not a stream. There is no option. And they're rolling this out throughout the whole of primary. So we've had a few families who were interested in Canadian School for grade 1, but now they're not interested because they just don't have the level of Mandarin that would be required, or they just don't want that much Mandarin input. So Sharon, thank you for your question. If you want to follow it up with another question, I couldn't possibly say what are the chances. If what we do for our clients is apply to 3, get 1. These 3 wouldn't be your set 3 because they're all going to be in a different year. I'm not sure. Let me assume that your child is applying for reception in 2025, if I may. I'm going to take a stab at that. Because CIS is 20, if you're going to apply for 2025 reception, you've got to do it for CIS. Canadian, you kind of missed it because the main intake was last year, and for VSA, it's going to be next year. So you wouldn't apply to all of these 3 in the same year. I hope that makes sense. I can see more questions. Good. Feel free to ask a follow-up, Sharon. I hope that helps. This is a long one. I'm going to read it on screen. Take a huge risk. Okay, you're moving from the UK. You're welcome, Sharon. And you'll be in year 3. You're trying to get Hong Kong system. Oh, okay. Right. Okay. I used to teach teachers in the local sector in the 90s and noughties. And that was just before I had children. And I have to say, as a non-Chinese speaker, but you are ethnically Chinese, Ho, I'm going to take a wild guess from your name. But your child is already in year 3. And if they haven't learned Cantonese to date, they're definitely going to feel behind. They're going to be on the back foot, and there will be all sorts of confidence issues and the rest of it. This is a difficult one. Okay, DSS, forget it. I'm going to be real with you. I'm going to be really straight with you and say that, okay, DSS and EMI are not the same thing. Okay, let me take DSS. DSS are direct subsidy scheme schools. People say that they are better. I'm not going to comment on that. But whether or not they're better or not, they are extremely competitive. Extremely competitive. And without any Cantonese, your child is not going to make it. Can I save you the bother of going through all of the heartache and that emotional roller coaster of going to a DSS school that is primarily, well, it's going to be 100% Chinese children, almost. There'll be 1 in the whole school as an anomaly. So forget it for DSS, if I'm being really honest. EMI schools are not super competitive. So but the problem is that you need to wait until you move. And then you need to have your proof of address. And there's a really good group that a lady called Victoria runs, and I'll put the comment, I'll put the link, is EMI schools, something like that. It's a Facebook group. Now, EMI schools, EMI stands for English as a Medium of Instruction. It doesn't mean that all of the teaching is in English. It means different things to different schools. They're free. They are for... the very, very best ones are super competitive. It's hard. It's really hard to know which is which. I'm waffling. I do apologize. You say you're not sure if you could afford international school. So we are just finalizing our budgeting guide. There's a couple of international schools that are starting at around 120,000 Hong Kong dollars a year. What's that? 12,000 pounds a year. Is that right? Yeah. And if you can afford it, I think if you can afford it, could you ask your employer to subsidize it? I mean, I don't know why you're moving to Hong Kong. If you can ask your employer to subsidize, if you can build that into your package, into the offer, if it's not too late. But year 3, the other relevant question is, what would you do on your return to the UK? Would she be going into a state school or a private school? Would you like her to go to grammar school? And therefore, is the education that she's going to get here, is that going to be sufficient preparation for her for the next step? So that's a lot in your question, Ho. Thank you for your question. She will get into a school. She has to, as a Hong Kong resident with a dependent visa. She's entitled, and the Education Bureau are obligated to assign her a school place. So just a bit of background information. You're moving over for family reasons, and she'll be here for the long term. Do you speak Cantonese? I wonder if you could you start her in Cantonese Saturday school in the UK? If you speak Cantonese, she'd be playing catch up, but might she be able to do it? Just about. So yeah, it's a tricky one. Shall I be controversial? Shall I be controversial? As I say, I'm not going to be too controversial. I'll get cancelled. But as I say, I used to teach teachers. This is going back a long time, but then I've also got a lot of experience of of moving children from local schools into international schools. The overarching issue that we find is that they are behind in everything. The teaching's not great. Hong Kong struggles to recruit teachers, especially in the last few years. We've seen a lot of teachers leaving. The teaching might be in English, might be in bad English. The teachers are not native English speakers. The curriculum has its issues. You can look up the curriculum online. Large classes. If you could, I mean, I'm going to say people are probably going to argue with me and say, look, our kids love it. I'm not saying your kids are going to be unhappy, because hopefully, as I said at the start of the call, most kids would enjoy going to school. But in a local school, and an EMI school is a local school, it's going to be less fun. It's going to be a lot less experiential learning, a lot less project-based, a lot less modern, if I can say it that way. It'll be a lot more pen and paper, a lot more sitting down, a lot more tests, a lot more exams, a lot more revision, a lot more, we call it, TTT, teacher talking time. They've also been known to call it drill and kill. And so I do a bit with my parents. We've got a diagram where I can share it with you later, where based on the oh gosh, my head, the learning, Bloom's taxonomy of learning. There we go. Bloom's taxonomy of learning. Again, if you look it up, what most of us say about what we want our children to achieve in school, and this is in line with the OECD guidelines as well. We want our children to graduate with the skills to be able to come up with creative solutions to complicated problems, right? In a nutshell. And our international schools are doing a lot, what they can. I mean, a little bit they're learning as they go, but they are doing what they can to be able to prepare our children to do that. The local schools are not. The local schools are simply preparing the kids to pass tests. So I've got this hierarchy where I talk about was it knowledge and understanding are the bottom two rungs of the ladder. Local schools are really operating with the lower order thinking skills, which is the bottom rung of the ladder. Teach kids stuff, facts, things like I learned in school like 40 years ago, which is not the way that international schools teach, because kids no longer need to memorize lots and lots of information. They can look it up in seconds. The skill is being able to synthesize that information, make sense of it, analyze it, and then create the solution to the complicated problem, right? So I hope that's not too controversial. I see she gave me permission to be controversial. Thank you for your question. I hope that's not too much of a pessimistic view. What's the more optimistic view? The more optimistic view is that she will learn lots of Cantonese, never as much, never enough. It will never be enough. The teachers will always be saying she's behind, it's not enough. She'll always be feeling that, she might be getting D's, she might be getting C's. It will never be enough, but it will be an awful lot more than she'll learn in international school. There we go. Okay, good. Do I have any more questions? Let me know where you're watching from. Are you watching on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook? Is there anything that you would like me to cover in successive weeks? You're welcome, Ho. I can bring on some guests if you would like me to. This is something of, if you would like to be my guest, do you have an interesting perspective or any perspective on Hong Kong education or UK education? Would you like to be my guest, even if it's just a pure parent perspective? We're running a lot of series next year. We've got a lot of content coming out. We're going to really look at our YouTube channel and the podcasts. So let me know. Are you brave enough? I'll be nice. I'm really, really interested. People message me all the time. And if you would like to remain anonymous, I'm sure we could arrange that as well. But I would be very interested to have a bit more variety, and so that you don't have to listen to the sound of my voice all the time. Of course, it's your choice to join or not. But let me know. Give me a thumbs up if you would like to come on and speak about something in particular related to Hong Kong education. So do we have any questions about UK education? I'm flying off tonight. So if anyone wants to talk to me about working with us, I have evening slots available because I will be in the UK. So once I land, I'll just adjust my time zone. And if you go onto topschoolsadmissions.com, you'll be able to book a call with me to discuss what it might look like working together if you would like our support. And so I'll be available for Hong Kong evenings for about 3 weeks. And then I'll be back in the middle of September. And then we have our International Schools Festival with the South China Morning Post, which is our biggest. And this is our 10th anniversary. So I guess it was 2015, right? Was that 10? And then there's 2024. We missed one though, but we missed one because of COVID, I'm fairly sure. On the 21st of September, we have a few VIP tickets left. I guess just comment VIP if you would like me to send you a link to register for VIP ticket on the 21st of September. We have most of the international schools attending in one room on one day. There are a few that don't come. They should. And we have some UK schools this year. And we also have, do we have one or two from Asia? We're looking at giving parents more options, more schools in Malaysia, Japan, Thailand, for more choice, if that's of interest to you. Very traditionally, lots and lots of Hong Kong parents have sent their children to UK. We're finding that there's a little bit more resistance to doing that these days, and it becomes not necessary. So there's a couple of great schools in Malaysia. One's just on the edge of Singapore, another one's just outside KL. There's a couple of schools in Japan and a couple of schools in Thailand. So we'll be working with them more closely. Okay. Hi, Tina. Thank you for your question. Primary one is local, so I don't really do that. How would I handle parent expectations when they want to fight for the tops? You're a private tutor. Ah, Parents have the right to be ambitious. I always believe that, we've got lots of parents who would like to be ambitious. You've got to give it your best shot, right? Because if you don't, you might regret it. You've got to be in it to win it. All those trite phrases that I repeat a million times. Well, Tina, you're a private tutor. You're not an admissions consultant. But what we would do, but we don't do local schools. What we would do we have a formula, and we take parents through a very sort of systematic process where they're going to choose to apply to 3 schools. Among the 3 schools, if they absolutely have to move into a new school, among the 3, there should be a safe school or a target school at least. Do you understand? We talk about reach, target, and safe. So reach schools would be, I think I don't need to explain that, right? If their ability doesn't match, I mean, sometimes it's hard to tell. We don't always know. I have been wrong in the past. I know, shock horror. I've been wrong and thought, look, this child's just not going to get in, and they do. And sometimes it's just inexplicable. So I wouldn't discourage them from having a go, especially for the local sector. 3 schools is probably not enough. But think about also, I would advise the family to consider the emotional toll that it's going to take. My son is 17, and when he was 5, I applied for primary one in some very, very top local schools. A little bit of research, but on the other hand, it was extremely stressful, especially if you, as a tutor, I'm not sure if you tutor English, maths, probably doing other activities and other tutoring as well. If they apply to 10 schools, which is not unusual in the local sector, and they don't get any of them, well, then they can just go back into the central allocation, right? I don't know. I mean, look, it's part of what I do is managing expectations. It's not easy. I always say that if I'm going to go back to university, I'll do a counselling degree, be empathetic. Don't know if you're a parent yourself, Tina. I think it's about being ambitious, but being realistic. But also the sacrifice. I mean, is it worth it? Is it really worth it? And managing expectations, how will you feel? You're going to put all this effort in. You're going to stress out, undoubtedly, and you get a no at the end of it. How are you going to feel? You're going to have to be okay with that and move on and have a plan B and have a backup. The kids are applying. You are kidding me. You are kidding me. 20 to 30 schools. That's crazy. That is crazy. I don't know. I mean, if they want international, 3 schools, 1 offer, done. I hope that helps, Tina. Okay, another comment from Tina. It's never going to be fun. I mean, well, I suppose the preparation can be fun. Yeah, that's a tricky one. That's a tricky one. I hope that helps, Tina. So I've got another question. You're very, very welcome. Michelle, can I find this one? Okay, which schools would I recommend for a potentially gifted child? This is a difficult one. Okay, first of all, I would say let's not go with potentially. Let's define it. Let's make sure. Because a lot of gifted children are twice exceptional. So they might be very, very advanced in something, but then needing support in something else. So I think with any needs, learning needs, this applies to children that need support to reach the minimum standards as well. With any learning needs, I don't want to work with potentially. I want to know what we're working with, because the schools are going to want to know as well. So we need to get that nailed, defined by a professional, because believe you me, the school is not going to take your word for it. They're not going to take my word for it. Now, having said that, what schools do I recommend? How old? There's not that, I mean, okay, so the very, very strongly, again, if they're just gifted, they're just smart in everything, and they need to be accelerated and stretched and challenged, 7, with no needs, I would go for Harrow, Kellett, the British schools, German, Swiss. 7 years old, you're not getting into Chinese international, just forget it. Now, the other ones that are always mentioned for learning needs, whether it's support or acceleration, is the Harbour School and Hong Kong Academy. So go and have a look, but they're not your only choices. The Harbour School does differentiate. They are very good at, you're getting him tested, good. The Harbour School is very good at not necessarily paying attention to how old a child is, but seeing what they can do and working with their level. There's a lot of learning resources. I think whichever school that you end up in, I mean, maybe what school is he in currently? I mean, do be very careful about leaving one school because another one says that they can do this, that, and the other, and they promise you the earth, the moon, and the stars, and that might not necessarily be the case. There's not ever going to be a perfect school, but you want a school that can give him enough, him or her or him, enough stretch and challenge. Yeah, take a look at Harrow, Kellett, German, Swiss, the Harbour School. Just thinking. ISF, Victoria Shanghai Academy, if you're more like, you know, the Chinese. Yeah, it's hard. And a lot, I mean, I presume you're seeing an educational psychologist to get him gifted as well. Ed psychs often make recommendations on schools, but unfortunately they don't know the admissions procedures. They kind of do know a little bit about the teaching. He's at ESF and he needs a smaller school. Why does he need a smaller school? Oh, he needs smaller classes maybe, but not necessarily a smaller school, because a large school can do a very good job of making a child feel safe in a smaller class. So maybe smaller classes, ESF classes are 30, so that is quite large. Yeah, let me know, Michelle, if you're looking for 2025 and you might think, you know, maybe we can support you. Let me know. Charcoal. Sorry, let me get rid of that one. Oh my goodness. Yes, smaller classes. Yeah. Let me remove that one. Good grief. I can't keep up today. What have you guys been taking? Let me show this one. Hi, Charcoal. Did we talk? Your name seems familiar. I wouldn't forget that one, would I? British curriculum in a young age to transit to IB stream in high school. Why would you want to do that? No, it's not difficult, because you've got schools like Nord Anglia or German Swiss that do exactly that. So they run the British curriculum all the way up. They do GCSEs at year 10, 11, and then they flip to use IB diploma. If you're looking at transiting into IB stream before that, it might be. I mean, it depends on your child. It depends on the current school, the school that you might be considering. It depends on your reasons for looking around. But just to use German, Swiss, and Nord Anglia as an example, there might be a couple of others that do that. But that just proves to you that the children can attend a British curriculum all the way up to year 12. and then flip to do the IB diploma. So it's possible. Think about the IB diploma, whether or not it's right for your child. There's so many schools in Hong Kong that offer it, and it is so challenging. Think about that. Consider whether or not it's the right decision. But I don't know how old your child is, Charcoal. So, right, let's see. You're very welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Some of these I won't show on screen. Right. Are we good? Are we all done? Thank you. All right, I've got another meeting at 8 o'clock. So I hope that's helpful. You're very welcome. I like it when you guys ask me questions. Sometimes I'm just here on my own. So next week, same time, Thursday at 6, and every Thursday at 6 o'clock. Let me know if you've got any more comments. If you want to book a call, we've got a couple of spaces for 2025, but we're rapidly filling up those spots. Topschoolsadmissions.com. Got a masterclass in there, which I would highly recommend you watch before you book a call. If you like my approach, then you like it, and that's great. But we want you to make sure that it is right for you, and that apply to 3 schools, get into 1, that makes sense to you, and that you're happy to go along with that process, because that's what we do. It works. We've been doing it for 12 years now. So watch the masterclass. It kind of explains what I do. I think I've got that hierarchy that I just talked about. I think that's in there. The ladder diagram about skills versus stress. That's local schools versus non-local schools. Got a couple of new schools opening in 2025, so watch this space as well. And great. Well, thanks so much. Have a lovely, lovely evening, and I'll see you same time next week. Take care then. Bye-bye.